Thanks so much for being with us on this Friday afternoon. And maybe since it's Friday, you're starting to think about it is Friday, like you didn't know, Mr. Leaving on vacation tomorrow.
No idea.
Seems like a good occasion to have a drink and toast that you're going to be off. And I'm thinking a lot of people are probably getting into sink a set mode right around now. It's Friday again. You want to enjoy a drink at the end of a hard week. I remember when we found out that alcohol causes cancer, and we were pretty shocked. And now new research shows that even one glass of booze a day can shrink your brain. This same study also seems to show the more you drink, the more it has this effect on your brain. So let's find out more. REMI DAVIET is an assistant professor in the marketing department at the Wisconsin School of Business, also co-corresponding author of this study. Thanks for your time today, Remy.
Hello.
I understand you're also a former Montrealer.
Yes, I lived in Quebec from 2009 and in Montreal from 2011 to 2014 before I left to Toronto for my PhD.
Okay, great. Well, it's nice to talk to you. So this study determined that even moderate alcohol consumption has a big effect on our brains. Tell us more, Remy.
So first, the good news. Let's start with the good news. For up to
Yes.
one bottle of wine per week, we didn't detect any negative effect. That's one small glass a day.
All right, let's stop right there. Thank you very much.
No.
That's all we wanted to hear. Oh,
That's
I'm sorry.
pretty
There's
good,
more?
So one bottle a week and you're okay.
One bottle of wine per week, you should be okay. That's one small glass of wine or a small glass of beer per day. The problems are with larger glasses, so half a liter of beer per day. This repetitive exposition is associated with, so if we look at two people and they have the same age, same head size, same genetic ancestry and more, if one drinks one large beer per day, on average, you have smaller brain. We cannot prove that alcohol caused that, but we can suspect it, that the repetitive exposure of the brain to a small amount of stress ends up killing some gray and white matter cells.
Okay. So what is it about booze that has this effect on our brains?
So we know that alcohol in large quantity is toxic for the brain. And so it creates some oxidative stress and then it creates inflammation, and cells don't like that, so they end up dying. And your brain shrinks as a result, in the same way that your brain shrinks when you're aging.
Okay. And the more you consume, the greater effect. Does it get to, do you have to be drinking quite a lot for it to be an extreme effect, or are we just talking anything over one bottle of wine per week?
So starting at one bottle of wine per week, we start to have small effects. So 2 bottles of wine per week or one large glass per day, your brain is shrunk like it aged for 2 years. But 2 years in brain age is not that much. Do you think you feel or think differently than you were thinking 2 years ago? Not that much.
No.
But there is still an effect. However, every glass you add, the effect is stronger and stronger. So it's 2 years with the first glass, and then 3 years on top of that if you add half a glass. And if you drink two large glasses, 1 liter of beer per week, then it's 10 years, the equivalent effect.
Holy cow.
So the last glass you're taking every day is the one that matters the most. For heavy drinker, the good news is that if they reduce just a little bit their consumption, they already start getting better fast.
Right, which was my question. Is it reversible? So if you actually recognize this data and say to yourself, whoa, I got to cut back, as you cut back, you're gaining some of that back.
So for moderate drinking, we are not sure, but for heavy drinking that has been studied a lot, there is evidence that even in heavy drinkers with functional impairments, serious impairments, abstinence will reverse many of the deficits.
Okay, that's good.
When your gray matter dies, it doesn't necessarily come back, but your brain learns to create new patterns in the surviving cells, and you recover your functionality, basically.
Remy, I find myself being kind of curious about how this study was conducted, and I'm wondering, if people had already had a history of drinking, how were you able to gauge how this made this worse? Because their brains would have already shrunk, would they have not?
Yes. And we tried to control for as many things as we could. So we excluded people who were drinkers, but we stopped drinking. We still found the same result. We excluded people who were completely abstinent. So people who drink just a little bit, we didn't find any difference. Whatever we changed in terms of past consumption that we could observe, because there are a lot of things we couldn't observe, like how long people have been drinking for, we still had the same results. So the evidence is slowly accumulating, but surely.
So,
okay. I could just want to bring up something that we have to sort of draw a line here. We've talked, you mentioned off the top, Natasha, this idea of alcohol we know is a level 1 carcinogen, right?
Yes.
Yet that news has got nothing to do with your brain. That's bad for your heart and bad for so many other things. Your study here, Remy, is specifically focused just on brain health, right?
Yes, exactly. Like we looked at brain scan, and I was looking for something completely different at the beginning, and it just happened that alcohol has such a strong effect on the brain that I couldn't measure the other things I wanted to measure, but I ended up thinking with talking to other people who are more specializing in addiction, that could be actually a great paper to say what I found with alcohol and brain size.
That's interesting. And I'm wondering, too, there will be people out there, I wonder if it's a function of drinking, who tell you they actually think they function better. And I'm not talking drinking a whole bottle of wine, but after a drink or two, they feel sharper, they feel whatever else, but that's, I'm guessing, in their head.
I don't have expertise to judge that. If they feel better, that's great for them.
So Natasha does, right? Because you'll have a glass of wine and you feel good.
I wouldn't want to be doing my job after, because I feel like I have to be really on the ball, and I'm a little more relaxed after I've had a glass of wine. So I'm not going to be testing that out anytime soon.
All right.
I can tell you that everybody on the team enjoys a drink from time to time.
Right.
Well, it's a great message of moderation. Like I pay a lot of attention to how much I drink for a variety of reasons. But when you tell me a bottle of wine a week is okay, I'm like, oh, all right. So you have some guidelines, and it's a great deterrent to overindulging and a great message to, continue to drink in moderation. Now, I'm wondering about, somebody who was maybe, they say you can be born an alcoholic, right? Like if your parents were alcoholics, if your mother gave birth to you, that it can sort of be in your genes. Does that come into play at all here?
So genetics plays an aspect in every side of life, every type of behavior. Mm-hmm. There are other things that are maybe more important in terms of the effect of alcohol is your ability to process alcohol. And there we know that people are born differently and there are strong differences. In particular, there are two genetic variations, ADH1B and ADH2B, that cause your body to produce fewer enzymes to fight the alcohol. And as a result, the alcohol might take more damage. And so 10% of Caucasians have this variation. For Asians, it's a lot more. Your genetic background might affect how much damage alcohol does and how sensitive you are to the effects of alcohol.
Totally fascinating.
Yeah, really.
And then I think I want to know, Remy, like when I'm saying, oh, well, it's a great deterrent to overindulging, what was the ultimate goal of this? I mean, you want to see what the effect on the brain, but what do you hope comes of this research?
I hope it might affect, prevention and policy and people being informed and maybe motivating them to cut down a bit. They don't need to completely stop drinking, if they stay in moderation, but they have to know that after that first glass, and it's every day again, it's not like a first glass once a week. After that first glass every day, there might have consequences that we might be able to detect.
And that's important, yeah. And important because when you first said, one bottle, small glass, I'm thinking for a lot of people, that's probably what they have. And that's good news to know that at least that's not over the line. So, yeah, important work. Remy, thank you so much. Appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Remy Daviet, former Montrealer.
Yeah, former Montrealer, assistant professor in the marketing department at the Wisconsin School of Business, and he was also co-corresponding author of this study.
So you, having heard that, because I kind of saw your eyes kind of light up there when he said that one small bottle a week.
Yeah, because that's about me. I open a bottle of wine and it'll last me all week. Now, I don't open it until like Wednesday or Thursday, but then, I rarely drink more than a bottle a week.
Can't remember the last time I would have drunk a bottle a week. I'm one of the, well, you'd know this because you know me a little bit, right? I'll open a bottle of wine, we'll have a glass or two or whatever, and I'll put it back in the whatever it goes and forget it's there. And
Val doesn't drink it all anymore.
Not anymore,
now, right?
No.
So that's a big difference. Like, because it's nice to sit together and have a glass of wine.
Yeah, it's not the same when the other person is drinking green tea.
Yeah, no.
But, it is what it is.